Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I want to talk about self-love. I've been inspired to tell you another story that I happened across a few years ago that really hit home for me, and I'm sure it's going to hit home for a lot of you, hopefully, because this is all about self-love and why it's crucial that you have that self-love if you want you and your eternal soulmate to come together, because that's not going to happen. When you don't fully love yourself, you can't possibly attract anyone to you that's going to fully love you for who you are, if you can't. So, it's really important as far as what comes to you in your life, not just as far as your eternal soulmate goes, but as far as anything that you want, all of your dreams, your hopes, your wishes. They can't come to you if you're not in the receiving mode. And if you're in self-loathing, I actually kind of have two stories here. I'm going to be very vulnerable with you because not many people know this story about me. When I started to awaken and evolve, I was very guided to walk away from a 30-year-long marriage. I had known for about 10 years that it wasn't right for me, but you've been married that long, for me anyways, I wasn't ready to just walk and then find out, oops, that wasn't the right decision. So I was determined to make sure that that was the right decision for me. And I think it was 10 years previous. I look back on it now and I see all the signs and the signals that my inner guidance system was giving me in that case. But I guess I didn't want to hear it. We had been together forever and I was afraid to move on and be alone. But finally one night, being pushed to say I want a divorce, and there was just no going back from that. I felt like I had no choice but to walk away. So I did. It was at that point in time that I started to realize that I loathed who I was. I would look in the mirror and I couldn't stand who was looking back at me. I honestly could look in the mirror and say, I hate that person. Who is that? And that's what I saw coming back at me was, looking into my own eyes, I could see the pain and the hate and the dis-ease that was going on inside of me. And, it just brought more of that to me, more things that made me feel uncomfortable and things that forced me to look at myself. So from that point forward, I realized that I have some serious internal work to do here, because you can't go through life hating yourself. So I started to do the work, and bit by bit, little by little, I started to be able to look at myself in the mirror again. And I realize now, in looking back, that the relationship that I drew to myself when I was in that place, I wasn't very self-confident. I had no self-esteem. And so, I attracted somebody that took advantage of that. Somebody that wasn't too concerned about how they made me feel or how they treated me. And because I was where I was, I guess I just let it happen. I am not that person today. I love myself today. And I love myself enough that I'm not going to allow myself to get into those situations where I'm not appreciated, where I'm taken for granted, not loved the way I deserve to be loved. We all deserve to be loved, at least as equally as you love the other person. But you have to love you before you can expect anyone else to love you. So I had to come to that realization, and it was work. For me, it was work. I'm not saying that's how it's going to be for the rest of you, but okay, so the story that I've been inspired to tell you is that of a company that wanted to see what would happen if they hired people to do menial tasks, pay them to do it, but do these menial tasks and make it almost impossible for them to do them successfully. Okay, so they were going to set these people up for failure right from the beginning, because they wanted to see how the person would react to the failure. So they were recording this, and they brought in the person, asked them to do the menial task, and then they left the room. These people did not know they were being recorded, okay? And so they would start to do the menial tasks. There was more than one. And like I said, they were set up to fail. Stuff was going to happen that was going to cause them to fail at completing the task. So what they wanted to do was see exactly how these people responded to the failure. And the day that they hired them to do these tasks and recorded them, they also paid for a meal at a very, very nice restaurant. And this person would go with somebody else from the company. They were taken for this meal, so it was paid for and everything. So they went out for this meal. But what they did is they, unknowingly to this person, is they sat actors right next to them, so that when the actors were speaking, this person that had been hired to do the tasks could hear what was going on. And they were going to speak loud enough that this person could hear anyways. So they get to the restaurant, they're sitting with the person that hired them for the tasks, and these actors will show up. And the one actor, fairly loudly, will start to tell the other actor exactly the same things that this person said to themselves while doing these tasks and failing at them. Every person spoke up, and spoke up for the actor that was being spoken to. And it's funny, because what they would say is, you can't talk to somebody like that. That is so cruel. That's so mean. It's so hateful. It's not right. You have no right. Who do you think you are? And then they were told that everything that that actor said to the other actor was to the letter what that person had said to themselves when failing the tasks that they were asked to do. So out of that comes that, okay, so if you wouldn't say it to someone, a stranger, a total stranger, if you wouldn't say that to a stranger or anybody that you love, why do we feel okay to say it to ourselves? I was no different. I was doing the same thing, and that's why I had to come across that video, because I had to gain the understanding that I need to love myself, not just feeling, not just emotionally, but in kindness to myself. I had to be kind to me. If I wanted others to be kind to me and considerate of me and respect me, I had to be those things to me. And in the beginning, I found it really hard to grasp that concept, because all my life I had spoke to myself out of anger, out of hurt, out of frustration. You know, I've called myself names. I've gotten mad at myself for messing things up. The easiest way for me to turn that around and show myself the love that I wanted to be shown was to look at my inner being as a completely separate entity to me. And, you know, on one hand, your inner being is something completely different and separate from your human self, from your ego self. But that just so we're clear, that inner being is a very big part of you, okay? That's a bigger part of you than the human being is. But anyways, just to make a point here, I would look at my inner being as if it was somebody outside of me that I absolutely adored and loved and respected. My children, my grandchildren, my parents, who are no longer with me and weren't at the time either. So, but I know they're with me, just not the same way. But if you look at yourself, your inner being, as an individual who is connected to you and has feelings and can be hurt and wounded by things that we say to ourselves, and treat it like it's someone outside of you that you love like no other, you will stop saying those things. Or what it comes down to is just being aware of what we're saying, how we're saying it, and why we're saying it. And be clear that that's not acceptable. That's not cool. We can't talk to ourselves in a way that we wouldn't talk to anyone else, because we should treat ourselves better than we treat anybody else, really. Now, the cards that came out to go along with this self-love conversation are these two here. And it kind of blew my mind, I have to say, because we've got Soulmates, which is number 41. And we've got Not For You, number 6. And I could go into the book and read these for you, but I don't need to, because the message came in very loud and clear when these cards came out. And it's that we just kind of talked about it. If you want to attract and have the union that you're looking for with your eternal soulmate, you have to find a way to love yourself the way you would love them, the way you want them to love you. An eternal soulmate is not going to come in and be any good for you if you're still in that phase of, you could be as low as I was, where you're self-hating, self-loathing. If you're in that place, realize that that's not where you should be. It's not where you need to be. You need to be in a place of self-loving. And that's what's going to bring your eternal soulmate to you, because your eternal soulmate loves you deeply. Deeply. So you need to love you deeply in order to have that love with your eternal soulmate. The Not For You card is here because until you can get to that place, you are not going to have your soulmate. It's not for you. You have to vibrate at the right frequency, the right level for an eternal soulmate union before you can have that union, or it won't work. It's like magnets. You can turn a magnet around, and if you have two of them, they absolutely repel each other. That's where the two of you are if you're not in a self-loving mode. So I guess what Spirit is asking here is that you be aware of how you speak to yourself. You know those times when you're alone and nobody can hear you, and you don't have to worry about being embarrassed because you're talking to yourself? Those times. Pay attention to what you say and how you feel when you say it. Try to find the love that you have for yourself. It's in there. You do love yourself. You love yourself deeply. It's buried by baggage, emotional baggage. Well, we need to dig through that emotional baggage, and that's mostly why all this baggage bubbles up to the surface, and we have to deal with it and release it, because that's what gets us to our true self. That is what takes us to self-love. But I find it interesting that the two cards that came out as well, the first one is number 41. When you break it down, it's 4 plus 1 is 5. The other card is a 6. This is just like the other reading that I did, where I was guided to give you a story, tell you a story. They added up to 11. And 11 for me has everything to do with an eternal soulmate, because when you look at the number 11, it's mirroring itself. So this is what's going on. If you are talking to your eternal soulmate, if you are in union with your eternal soulmate, but you're having problems, you're struggling, the two of you will be mirroring each other. And what we mirror each other in a relationship, it's the reflection of us. It's the reflection of what it is in us that we need to work on. So, even if you're not in union, if you're not even in communication, there's things that have happened in the past possibly that you can look back on and gain an understanding for. And I'm willing to bet it takes you right back to that self-love. Because that's what it's all about. It's all about love. Love for yourself, love for the planet, love for the people of the planet, the beasts of the planet, the greenery, the nature. It's about loving, and it's all we've got. So, like I said, when you can get yourself to that place of self-love, then that card not for you will be removed. But until you do, that person is your soulmate, is not for you. Okay? Self-love is a big one on the journey, on the path. It's huge. It's one of the biggest. When you have self-love, you have self-respect, you have self-worth, you have self-esteem, self-confidence, and you have the ability to set boundaries, which is so important. And that comes from the confidence, the self-confidence and self-esteem, and knowing your worth. Drawing that line in the sand because you love yourself enough that you know you deserve to be treated better. Okay? So that's everything. I hope it helped. I really do. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.